So we have a story problem here involving systems of equations, and we're dealing with a mathematics professor is 3 less than 3 times the average age of his students. The difference between the professor's age and the average age student is 35 years. Find the ages. So that's the story problem we're going to be working with. First of all, we don't know the professor's age, so we're just going to call him X. And we don't know the age of the students, so we're just going to call them Y. So X will be the age of the professor, and Y will be the age of the students, the average age of the students. Okay, then we're going to start reading the problem here, and it says that the professor is, so the professor is X, the professor is, that's equals 3 less, that means I'm going to be subtracting from 3 times the average age of the students. So first of all, I need to find out 3 times the average age of the students, so that means 3y, and then it says the professor is 3 less than that, so that's where we're going to subtract the 3 from. So the average of the professor is X, the average age of the students is Y, and the professor is 3 less, that's why we're subtracting 3, than 3 times the average age of the students. So that's our one equation. Our second equation is going to be the difference between the professor's age and the average student is 35 years. So I'm going to guess that the professor is older than the students. So we're going to just go with that assumption. So that means I'm going to take X minus Y is equal to 35 years. We're talking about the difference, and we're hoping that the professor is older than the students, or the average age, and that's going to be 35. We're talking difference, we're going to be subtracting. So now I have 2 equations. I can either use graphing, which doesn't make sense, or I can use substitution, or I can use elimination. Well, right now we have a very nice substitution problem because we have X in terms of Y here. So I can just substitute that into my second equation where there's an X. If I do that, I end up with 3y minus 3 minus y equals 35. And now I just need to solve the problem for y. Combining like terms, I have 2y minus 3 equals 35. I'm going to add 3 to both sides. 2y equals 38. I'm going to divide by 2. Y equals 19. And 19 is the average age of my students. That's what my Y is. So the average age of the students, average age of students is 19. And then I need to figure out what the average age of the professor is, and I have this nice equation here, so I know that X minus 19 has to equal 35. If I add 19 to both sides, I end up with X is equal to 54 years old. And then you can double check. So if I take 3 times the age of my students, if I take 3 times the average age of my students, and then I subtract 3 times 19 is 57, minus 3, that also gives me 54. So I've now checked 2 equations, the first one to get me the age of the professor, and the second one to double check all my calculations. And so therefore I know that my answer is 19 years old and the professor is 54 years old.